Hello and welcome. This is the Jinn and Tonic Show. It is the 4th of December 2016. On this show, we are talking about Islam. And I would really prefer if people join in. You can see the link to Just Watch above, live.godless.ch. Then you will be directed to YouTube and you can chat and watch. But I would prefer if you join the Hangout and talk to me, because either way it would be very lame just me talking here alone. That is the hangout.godless.ch link below. My name is Ike. I'm from Switzerland and I'm a replacement for the dictator. Stop spamming. I don't know if he can join today because his private life has changed drastically, meaning Sunday it seems it is over for him. And probably it is over for the show because I also don't really have time to gather contents for the English show. The reason is I have a German show at noon, and it is just too much. Even if it's the hobby I have, this religion thing, it is just too much to also host every Sunday English show. Anyway, for today I have gathered some news, and I have a little bit topic, but still it would be nice if people can contribute to this show with their opinions and thinking. Mostly it would be interesting if Muslims join, but we've seen this over the last 2 years mostly, that Muslims are scared, really scared, or have no clue about their own religion. That's my personal opinion. That they just repeat what their imam in their local mosque tells them to say. So their thinking device on their shoulders doesn't really seem to work on the issue of Islam, at least. Well, like I said, join please. Anyway, let's go right to the news. And if nobody joins in, the show will be over very quickly. So why doesn't the chat show up here on my side? Wait a second, please. So now you also see the chat live on the side, on the right side, what people will type. So in the beginning of this week, I had just come over this little news that American state TV show offered some advice how to cover up bruises and things like that of domestic violence. And I'm not really sure if it's just satirical or if it's a real thing, because I've looked a little bit myself into this video. This also put up on YouTube, and the host, the woman who hosts this show, had a shirt on with written on it fake. So I'm not sure if it's just somehow satirical at all, because I didn't understand, of course, the show, the Arabic. Well, you can say what you think about that. Next is Muslim forced to leave Christmas market after setting up Islam information stand. In Germany, there are this on many places and many little towns and villages, this Christmas market, and that's a long tradition. And this year it seemed they didn't want the Muslims at all to see there. And I personally can understand it, because why would you somehow set up a Muslim stand to promote Islam on a yeah, on a Christmas thing at all, because they don't believe that the Christmas thing themselves. So why would they do that? And it is set up by the Ahmadiyya community there, and I personally think the Ahmadiyyas are pretty much worst liar. At least they are not violent. They tried really with their peaceful thing, but still they lie like hell. And the mayor said, well, it is intolerant from other residents who claimed they should move to the stand away. And some resident also said, well, it is not very Christian-like to ban them from this place. I personally think, why Ahmadiyya has to do that at all? I mean, that just promotes somehow intolerance itself. And it's the same like going into Saudi Arabia and promote there a Christian stand and promote the Bible, etc. So there you will be probably hanged or beheaded for such things. So do this the rest of the year, I think, but on Christmas, don't do that. You're just making an uprising, more or less, even if it's a little uprising. Going on to more discrimination. In Slovakia, they made a new law to more or less make it illegal, or at least difficult to group together as Muslims and to build mosques, etc. And I really don't get why Slovakia, has to do such a law, because it is told that they anyway just have 2,000 Muslims in their country. So it is a really minority, and I don't think that they are much like violent Muslims or demanding Muslims in such minorities. I really don't think that. So why do Slovakia need such laws? I don't understand. And it also is told similar thing in Hungary. Myanmar is pretty known that the Muslims and the Buddhists are fighting since years and killing each other. And I didn't know that Angola has also pretty much banned Islam in their own country. Pretty interesting. They more or less demolished mosques, but the reason is that they didn't have permission from the beginning. And on this point, I think if you don't have a permission and you still build some building without permission from the government, from the state, you don't have to wonder if your building will be demolished. Yes, I think that's pretty straightforward. Intolerance from the other side. Pakistan has made a law to protect Christian, because a Christian couple was more or less just burned alive in a kiln. And after this couple was brutally burned alive and killed, Pakistani lawmakers did make a law to criminalizing forced religion conversion. And I really don't think that this will solve many problems, because I'm pretty sure that it wasn't already allowed to kill people just for doing conversion in Pakistan, at least. Even if it's a majority Muslim country, I think there are at least some laws to not just gather a mob and kill single people. I'm sure of that. What do you think about the news? I mean, I can't do much about the show. Maybe it will die, because I have to say not we, but the Jinn and Tonic Show over the last 6, 7, or 8 years pretty much covered any topic in Islam, and it is just getting very repetitive and lame, and Muslims don't come here on the show, and yeah, what can I do? What can we do? I mean, if it's just talking some atheists on the show, and I am an atheist, meaning just one who doesn't believe in God, that's the only attribute. If it's just atheists talking about Islam, it's pretty much useless in a way. So why keep a coma patient just alive to look at him? I think so. I've talked to Stop Spamming in the noon today, and he also admitted that the show is pretty much dead. Nobody seems to care anymore, really. If you don't want that the show ends, bring Muslims on the show. Bring them, and we can talk with them and discuss with them, and ask them why they believe what they believe, and etc. It would be a pity. Yes, somehow it would be, but I mean, really, the show has covered any topic, meaning any topic in Islam, pretty much. Since 7 or 8 years, the show is going on, and 1 year or a little bit more than 1 year ago, I offered the show a domain so that people can connect very easy to the show, but it just doesn't make really much sense to keep the show alive, I think. Just for the sake of keeping it alive itself. Next will be Charlotte area ISIS suspect pleads guilty Tuesday to terrorism charge. In the USA, a 20-year-old guy was prisoner, or at least pleaded guilty Tuesday, and the interesting thing is here that he was in contact on a website, I don't know, or in a chat with FBI undercover agent, and I don't get why the FBI has to do such things, because wait a second. Because it's somehow the same like putting honeypots of child pornography and bringing people who are pedophiles to them. I mean, it is more or less an inciting people to do some illegal stuff, more or less. And yeah, I really don't get why the Federal Bureau of Investigation has to do such things, because at the beginning it was more or less quiet, but they talked to each other, and somehow this Justin Sullivan, this 20-year-old guy, got more and more aggressive, and yeah, I really don't get why IFR has to put people to such thing. Well, 2010 Chandru. The news gathering is also time I have to put in, because you have to read the news. You have to gather the news, to look if it's interesting at all, because there are many news on Islam, but it is more or less every week the same. And to gather some interesting news, it's not easy. That's the problem. And it is time. People have to spend time on such things, and I don't have the time to do that every week. Yes, but still, what you think about the news? You can see the links for all news in the description box in this live show below. And the last news would be, still, come to the show, please, if you want to talk to me, because just saying don't let the show die and nothing less about the topics, this will end the show for today pretty quickly. And the last news I have is from Austria, and there is a statue from Maria Theresa, queen of the 18th century in Vienna, and she was very intolerant to other religions, and some youth groups covered these statues in a burqa and made a statement that they don't want to provide more room for Islam at all, and the police is investigating this thing, who exactly was that, etc. But I mean, they will not do much about it, because what can you do? It didn't damage any property at all. It is just a little bit work to take this thing, this whale away. Yeah, hello GPZ.
Oh, hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. What's this about?
Strangely
Mother
enough, I can
Teresa,
hear you.
did you say? And the burqa? The Islamification
Can other people
of Europe?
on YouTube at least hear him?
The Islamification of Europe.
Wait a second. I think it's something bad on my side. Today is
It all
really
went
not
quiet
my
for a
day.
second.
Now I can hear you.
Ah, that's good. So we were talking about the Islamification of Europe. I did warn you it was coming.
No, now it's gone again.
Who's gone?
Can you say something else?
Let me see.
Okay.
I gathered that the far right didn't win in Austria. They've conceded defeat, the far right party.
I don't know if they really were defeated, because they had an issue about the last presidential election. The courts were defective, and they needed a new election of the president. So
well, it's what I saw just before I had a little dog nap was that the results were something like 53 to 48% to the Greens. So that the far right party, who everyone was scared of, decided to admit defeat. The actual full results won't be in until Monday, because they've still got to do the postal votes.
Yeah, there is one Austrian guy in the chat that I know, and maybe he can say something if he hears us, because Austria has pretty much a problem because it is more or less the end of the Balkan route of the immigrants, and beside Hungary more or less just closed the borders, and Austria didn't do that, and they had some. It seems at least they have real problems with the Muslim, and I don't know if the Greens really will solve this problem with the immigrants they have, because the situation is not really good. I think in Austria the emotions are cooking up more and more. The question was about what is the election status on Austria. How is your opinion, Matthias, in this issue with the election? And on the news topic, come on, say something on the news topic. Have you something to say, GBZ?
Oh, I've only just logged in, so I wasn't sure what your news topic was.
First was this TV show who advised how to make up bruises and things like that on domestic violence women.
Ah, well, I don't know about that, but I did hear Peter Hitchens talk about Aleppo and suggesting that some of these so-called atrocities that are going on could just be propaganda and faked, because of the other cities in Syria, we don't always seem to be getting from them pictures of heroic men, unarmed men, carrying wounded babies and children out of rubble. So he's saying something on the lines of, well, thank God now that Assad has actually won in those particular Aleppo, and the killing might actually stop. And the propaganda that's been stoking up people like Hillary Clinton to put ceasefire zones over the Aleppos to cease. In other words, might actually be good news for people who actually live in Syria.
Syria is a difficult state at the moment, difficult status, because I still personally think that anybody should intervene that who is not invited by the still official government at all.
It's like, what do you call it? Gaddafi, when the population wanted him out of Libya. You had so many rebel groups, you didn't know who to side with. And the rebel group said, West, keep out. And it's the same with Syria. We've got so many rebel groups over there that some of them are just as bad as ISIS, that it's probably best if we stop trying to or our government stop trying to interfere and want regime change and just let the people sort out their own mess.
The interesting thing is Saudi Arabia still support ISIS in this region that we know of, and I don't understand why the international community allows this. Particularly, I think of the USA. Why they don't say, Saudi Arabia, stop this shit? That I really don't understand.
They've had the wrong sort of people in office. Trump might actually change all that, because his recent appointment to defense is somebody called Mad Dog, who has been put on the record of thinking that Iran is the most dangerous country in the Middle East because it's provoking all of these other satellite Muslim groups to up in arms and irritate the Saudis, who then go up in arms, and they're fighting proxy wars all over the place.
Yeah, sure. But
so it looks like there's going to be a complete new broom from America, and if America has a new broom, they are not going to start trying to twist, no, not even twist. I mean, what do you call a poodle? Didn't they say that Blair and Cameron were the poodles of America? doing whatever they wanted. When they said jump, Cameron and Blair were saying how high.
Yeah, but still, I think Trump just talked loud on this issue. I don't think that he will change in the Near East any political stand on the side of the USA. I don't really think that he can do really much about it, because somehow the USA got involved in it, and more or less like Obama couldn't close Guantanamo. I think Trump also can't do in the military thing much about the Near East.
Well, I suppose it's always a case of wait and see, but it is a new broom, and the Republicans seem to have a completely opposite view to what Obama wanted. So whatever what he wanted, that's gone. It's going to be a change, I think. Anyway, I've got some. Have you got any more news? Because
I've talked about it. I just can ask you what you think about this new a Muslim stand was more or less called to be offensive in a Christmas market in Germany. What do you think about
yes, I read something about that. It was the non-Muslim Muslims, wasn't it? The
Medea.
Ahmadiyya, yeah, the ones who the Muslims all hate. All they did was have a stand, wasn't it? And they set it up in a marketplace that traditionally was doing Christmas celebrations. And was it the mayor who took offence to it and asked? And
no, the mayor defended. The mayor defended the Muslims.
Oh, right, okay. So the mayor defended it, and it must have been the Christians at the plaza who disagreed with it. Well, I guess it's a bit like Ground Zero and the mosque. If you're having sort of like a religious celebration, you don't particularly want the other group religions trying to muscle in and start stealing your congregation.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they were trying to do, weren't they? They were trying to get into a Christian sort of like celebration where all the Christians were, and then start to say, come be a Muslim, come to our mosque. And that's usually hated by other churchgoers when other Christian groups do it. So I'm hardly surprised.
But do you think it should be prohibited, such thing, or don't you care at all?
Well, on a personal level, I suppose I don't care. On a freedom of speech thing, I don't really care either, because they're both preaching lies, aren't they? There is no God, therefore, why should they have the right to shout it out to everybody? And I suppose, thirdly, it could cause trouble. I mean, Islam hasn't got a great reputation at the moment.
Not in Europe, I think. Yes,
so. Why would you want to have Muslim groups doing propaganda in the street, especially in a place where there might be far-right people who traditionally tend to be more on the religious side, on Christian sort of like theology? I mean, the Ku Klux Klan are famous for being religious fanatics.
BG Price says something on the chat similar to the Samaritan Purse Xmas Christmas boxes being handed out in the areas where there are many Muslims with a lovely Jesus message in them.
Yeah, wasn't that an American thing? They went bananas over that, the Muslims. Yeah, that was last.
Yeah, it could be. I didn't hear about that, but it's similar, of course. I mean, I don't understand why always the Muslims act, at least in Germany, this Ahmadiyya act like they don't understand why people get upset about they are doing on a particular Christmas thing with their Muslim Dawah stand, and on the other side, Muslims go bananas, like you said, if Christians do similar things.
Well, they absolutely forbid it in real Muslim-controlled lands. If you were to start propagating Christianity, it's like a death sentence. And as far as Sharia is concerned, you just don't do it. And when they have a strong majority in a community like Malaysia, I think it was earlier this year, in the beginning of this year, the Muslim community went bananas over Christians proselytizing in or around Muslim places. I think
the double standard by Muslims, that is very, very annoying.
I know it's sort of like a loose link, but I was expecting Spam to be on today, so I posted him my news that I'd been picking up. But there's been a research published just in the last couple of days, which seemed to indicate that in the past, when researchers were looking for Muslims to interview and get research about how they felt about Sharia and their attitudes, they were targeting the wrong kind of Muslim. They were targeting the religious Muslims. And this research had a different approach. They tried to target the less religious Muslims, the majority, the ones we call the moderates. And they seemed to put the Muslim groups that the government always turns to seek advice of what Muslims want in very low regard. I'm trying to remember the name of the Muslim group in question, but there's one particular one that our government in the UK always asks for advice from, and apparently only 8% of the community even recognise them as speaking for Muslims and what they want. The majority of Muslims in the UK, the silent ones, they actually just want to be British. They don't want anything to do with the extremists or probably even the religion as far as the way it was practiced in the 7th century. They just want to be British. They want to be seen as British. They want to do British things and just be accepted.
Is this a little light here, maybe in the UK?
Well, it's just shown that our politicians have been asking questions to the wrong people and really messing it up for everybody because they've been listening to the fanatic religious theocrats who only want a new caliphate, shall we say.
Interesting. So the also in the UK, the politician fight against the people and not for the people, it seems.
Exactly.
Somehow.
I'll try and get when I stop talking, I'll try and get to find where that what do you call it, the address URL for the actual research paper, because I sent that to Spam to try and let him have a look at it beforehand. But the other bit of research that came out today, or sorry, not research, public inquiry, was into IERA, your favourite people, your Dawah friends, or especially Spam's Dawah friends. And apparently people have been criticising it for being a total whitewash, saying that IERA are nothing really bad, they're a registered charity who are unfortunate victims of jihadists and Islamists. And the ex-Muslim of the UK have been saying, hang on, no, that's not right. These guys are promoting the Islamists. They've got people in their ranks who are utter fanatics, like that Green guy who called Jews filthy scum in, was it Speaker's Corner?
Didn't get in trouble for doing such
Yes,
talks?
he did. Yes, he did. I mean, Dawah man's been banned from going to various universities for preaching jihad and supporting the radical terrorists. And you've got that Reverend Green who got caught on video insulting Jews in Hyde Park. You have Hamza Toltzus, who he got caught out with his sort of like strange views. So you know,
it is sad Hamza Toltzus wasn't there at when I was in London. Hello, Malit, Abu Malit, how are you?
Yeah, BJ, Dawah man got banned from universities because they found they prescribed him as a hate preacher.
Okay, that's. I think personally it's a good thing.
Not late last year, towards the end of last year.
Dawah man, you wanted to say something? I saw the microphone symbol just up a little bit. No, he doesn't want to say. Abu Mulid, you don't want to say anything.
You're calling me Dawah man?
Yeah, somehow.
What is that?
Just in a second, I mixed up the hearing.
You ought to call me Sir Abu Mulhid.
Or Sir Dawah man to you.
What?
Or Sheikh Abu Mulid, is it more maybe?
That's okay, Sheikh. That's
Sheikh Abu Mulid. What's your status in Sweden? Is everything all right there, or?
Who said that I am in Sweden? Anyway, but Sweden is cold right now.
Yeah, this winter, so I suppose it should be cold. It is the only news you have to offer.
Actually, I'm not that updated, but I think things are as usual, business as usual. Yeah.
Have you seen the news I offered? Have you any opinion on it? Can you say anything about it?
What was that news?
Any of these 6 news I have here?
No, I haven't followed anything. I had trouble with the technicalities. What was the Moroccan state TV show woman who how to hide
with the cover the domestic violence? Muslim stand was criticized on a Christmas market in Germany. Then Slovakia put up extra laws for just 2,000 Muslims in their country. A couple in Pakistan was burned more or less alive for being Christians, and they didn't want to convert to Islam. And after that, the lawmakers said, finally, at least we can put up some laws to prohibit it, but I don't think that will help anything at the moment. And a Muslim terrorist was plead guilty for wanted killing as much people as possible in the US, and a statue of radical, intolerant queen of the 18th century was covered up in a whale.
Oh, nice.
So, have you anything?
Far right, good. Okay. No, I don't know if there's much to say about it.
Nothing interesting for you, okay?
No, I thought it was nice that they covered up this statue in a veil. Otherwise, it might be quite cold up there.
I mean, she stands the whole year there, and now it's winter. It is a good thing, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably a bad hoster, so if nobody has more to say about that.
I'm just having difficulty trying to remember some of the things. Berger's triggering off for me some thoughts about France. I'm trying to figure out what, though. It's something to do with what the French did recently, and it was tied into the burqa. Can anybody else remember what happened this week regarding France? And
in France, I just know because I had this on the Noon, the German show. A guy was also plead guilty because he visited too much Islamic websites, jihadi website, and therefore he must be a terrorist. That's because of a law made early this year. And
what
might be that.
Was he? Wait a minute. What did he say? Where was this?
In France.
So he visited jihadi website.
Yeah, and the judge said he didn't visit the other news sites, so that is a sign of he has to be a supporter of terrorism and therefore right to jail.
Okay.
No,
I mean that's a bit absurd. That's. I mean, I'm not a supporter of that at all, but
I remember what it was now. I remember what it was. It was a French village or town that had a statue of Mary Magdalene been put up since 2011, and the government had told them to take it down because they said it was what do they do about religion? Promoting religion on government sites or government grounds, and that's why it was linked to the burqa, because it's the same sort of thing. They're saying the burqa promotes religion, so it was banned. So the Mary Magdalene statue has also been banned for the same thing. So it's like a secularism consistency within the French government to stop religion.
Since when was this statue there?
It was something in the news of last week, so it's quite recent.
Is this a new statue, or was it, or did it stand?
I remember the statue went up in 2011.
So
it's been there a few years, and then the government's got
5-6 years ago.
It was actually paid for, if I remember right, by public money as well. So that's another little scandal. Why was?
But do you know this? I'm a bit interested. Excuse me if I'm changing back the topic, but this guy that was you talked about in France that.
Yes, who visited the websites, and therefore he is probably a terrorist, of course. Yes. What is with him?
But no, but I wonder, like, how is that the whole story? Really? Can you just? I mean, it sounds a bit
bizarre.
Weird.
Yes,
it sounds bizarre. I mean, really?
I mean,
but how do they? How do they know that he just visited websites and is visiting websites criminal? Sounds.
The law is something about terrorism, but the definition of terrorism is not made clear in this law at all. So
yeah, but like
that's the problem.
I mean,
and here
I visit jihadi websites sometimes just to keep myself
don't do
updated.
That in France. Don't do that in France.
Okay, but like if a journalist want to visit these websites, are they also? It sounds a bit weird.
That was not the whole thing. He also had the desktop wallpaper with the IS flag, so that also.
Yeah, but that's why I think I don't. It sounds. I think there's something more to this story, but you never know. No, I mean, Frenchmen, they are weird. They eat frogs and whatever, you know.
No, it's the type of thing you've got in most European countries, that if you visit prescribed sites that the government don't like, which they might deem terrorists, you can fall foul of the law. Ever since the 9/11, countries have got really strict regarding where people can visit, and it's only within the last few years they've allowed secret services to data mine. Up until then, it's been illegal for them to do it, but now they can do it. They can actually convict people because they can present the evidence that they now admit they've been collecting.
But in France, you don't have to forget, because since last November, not last, but last year's November, in this thing, Bataclan whole issue, they are in an exceptional condition. The military is on the street.
That's more exceptional. They declared war. They declared war against ISIS. I mean, how exceptional can you get?
And that's a problem, because if you have the military on the streets, and the law was made in this period, so of course,
you know, can you just clarify to us uncivilized people? Is exceptional condition, is that the right term for it?
I don't know what's the other word.
I forgot what I said in
What's the like the correct word in English?
Well, it's not exceptional. Is not of the normal. It's not normal.
No. But
That's
there's
one step
I
beyond,
shake it.
isn't So
I don't know the other word in English.
Declaring war is exceptional, isn't it?
For a peaceful state and to be in war, all of a sudden is not really normal. Yes.
What France?
State of emergency.
State of emergency.
France
Exactly.
state of emergency. That's it. That's what France has got. Yes.
And they did. They have like I think it was 3 months. They can do that and extend it.
It's an extension now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the fifth or fourth extension they did on this state of emergency.
Was it last week or the week before last? It was 1 year anniversary of the Vatican massacre.
It happened in November. I think that was the 24th or 22nd, something like that.
Yeah, so it's amazing. It's a year now.
State of emergency. I mean, it is not really a state of emergency now. After a year, it is normal. You can call it.
No, but like, can they do this kind of things because of the state of emergency? Because then you can do pretty much anything. Like,
yeah,
you can justify anything.
They can do. That's a problem. If you are in a state of emergency, you can put up just new laws without asking the parliament. Very big.
No,
things.
I'm a bit worried about these things, to be honest. I mean, I am a kind of more hawkish than the average population when it comes to fighting
Well, it's
these guys, but I think you don't defend like democracy by
killing it. Yes,
by
that's
killing
a stupid
democracy.
idea.
It's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's like doing a brain transplantation or something like that. Like,
well, I think that's a bit far because I mean, we in England we had our Terrorism Act, and America has its Patriot Act, and there's certainly a lot of abuse that could have come out of it. But being in a sort of nobody's really in a democracy in Europe or America, but they've held back. What you tend to find is the lesser management levels abuse it. For example, in the Terrorism Act, they said it was illegal to take photograph or film of areas which might be targeted by terrorists. And what the police ended up interpreting it as any tourist who happened to have a camera, they arrested and stole their cameras. And then the Parliament, after a couple of months of this, got the message from the public what was going on and said, look, this is not what we wanted. This is going against the spirit of what we wanted. Stop arresting tourists with cameras, Mr. Policeman. And they did. So now you could take photographs of Buckingham Palace.
In France, you have similar issues about house searching because they don't need a judge to declaring this. They can do it more or less by themselves. And then I've read a number like 10,000 house searches were done since the Bataclan issue.
Well, the difference between a democracy and a non-democracy is if a democracy has this law, you get sort of like miscarriages and a little bit stepping over the mark. But if you're not living in a democracy, you end up with North Korea. And it never changes. The worst extremes are always performed. Always you'll have people taking their cameras, and always you'll have people breaking into houses to search. They won't do due diligence to see if it's got a warranted reason for doing it.
but I mean,
I have
I'm a bit
just to say hi, Jews for Jesus. Yeah, well, Abo.
Shalom.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask something else beforehand, but until I fixed my technical issues, we passed over the topic. So, GPZ, let me ask you a question on the thing in England with the tourists. When was that? Do you remember?
It was in London. It was happening in London quite a lot. I had a couple of friends who were Belgian who live here, and their hobby was taking photographs, and they got arrested by the police for taking photos.
And when did that happen?
Oh God, it was after the 9/11 that the terrorist act came in, so it was like pre-2008.
Oh, okay, around that time.
Yeah, it was long ago. I mean, it was when UK was one of the first countries to come out with anti-terrorism laws. And like I say, it wasn't the government who caused the problem. It was the lower managers, the heads of police and their subordinates who were telling their officers, go and arrest these people.
I remember I had a problem like that in England when I was taking pictures of synagogues around the time, I think 1 year earlier, 2007, and it took me a while to explain at the airport why I did that.
Yes, and
because they figured me on the radar. Well, I don't know for what. I don't know why, but I was walking around the Jewish quarters in England, in London, and taking pictures of some things that I considered interesting, and I wanted to show around in Germany or in Russia to show to people how Jewish life in England is, and just like that, those laws actually touched me. I didn't know that it is.
So you were Jews. You were stopped from leaving the country then for a short time.
I was interrogated.
Okay. BG Price also said on that happened on Toronto shortly after 9/11 or 2 for taking picture of the CN Tower. I don't know the tower, but he also says that.
Yeah, that's tourist is almost a terrorist.
Well, it was the camera. That's what they were worried about.
Yeah,
the Jewish community in London. It's surprising, but well, it shouldn't be surprising. Obviously, it must be a Muslim target. If you're going to attack someone, you're going to attack the Jews, aren't you? That sounded awful, didn't it? If you're going to attack someone, you're going to attack the Jews. No, what I mean is, if you're a Muslim terrorist, you're going to attack the Jews. They always seem to be the target for everything.
A little bit too much victimhood in my eyes, but anyway.
Blame the Jews. Are you an Israeli citizen? Jews for
Me?
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
I'm a Russian citizen.
Russia. Okay.
A little communistic.
Well, I've seen Fiddler on the Roof. You sure you're not a Jew? They were Russian. Can you play the fiddle? Are you often sleepwalking on the roof?
No, I can't. I don't think.
Oh dear, I've embarrassed you all, haven't I? I'm sorry, I can be very unpolitically correct at times.
I think you're a little bit incorrect on political issue. You have to be.
Extremely.
to be healthy. Well, people, have you anything else, or will it be?
I actually wanted to connect with the show the moment you started to talk about Austria, and now that our previous topic has been covered,
you still can talk about Austria. Why not?
So because the thing, I just talked to a Muslim lady, actually just a few days ago, who just returned from Austria and she told me that she has never experienced so much racism in there as during the last trip. She's wearing a hijab, and her experience, from just what I can retell from her, from what she said to me, was that even at the coffee shop, she was treated demonstratively different from the other customers. And this is not a lady that would be whining about some small things. So I'm wondering, is that the spirit? Is that the spirit that's is governing Austria right now?
I don't know, but to be honest, I can't really accept such statement by Muslims at all, because I also saw German news this week of a girl which was banned, or not banned, but at least called out of a bus because she eat it in the bus, and it wasn't allowed to eat in the bus, and she told the police that she was called out because she wear the veil, and later eyewitness came to the police and said no, that was not the case, but she just kept sitting there even after she was told 3 times that is not allowed to eating in the bus, and that made firstly the round that she said it is discrimination, it was because I'm Muslim, etc. And later it was found out that she just made the whole story up, and even the camera, the video, the tapes showed that she was at least 3 times told not to eat in the bus.
Yeah, but in this case, there was an incentive for her to produce the story, because I don't know. In Germany, it happens that you have to pay a fine if you're eating on the bus, and maybe
but I think in general, this is a card they play very often. Like, as soon as
I'm skeptical about such thing. If somebody tells, I'm even if I go to a coffee shop and I'm treated very, very differently. I mean, of course, you will be treated a bit at least differently if you come in a hijab, which is not seen every day at least, to say. And Matthias Mössl from Austria says tries to defend Austria. No, we respect Muslims. I mean, but in general, the situation in Austria is more difficult, I think, as at least in Switzerland, I can say. Here is very relaxed.
Austria has a long history, has another kind of history, where the Ottomans tried to invade them. At least two times. Or actually more than they. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but
yeah, somehow, of course, there is a fear still in their bones, even if it's long ago. This whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm reading.
It's the same thing. We Scandinavians are still afraid of Russia, for example.
Not of Denmark. Wasn't there something about Denmark?
Denmark. Who cares about Denmark?
I think it could be
tiny. But the Scandinavians are still afraid of Russia, for example, despite that there hasn't really been a war. Oh well, Finland had a war, the Finnish Winter War.
is this the reason why they put up stories about submarines?
No, but those
was
stories are real.
seen?
They are real.
No, they were fakes.
No, they are real. No,
No.
there were submarines. They are.
Oh, there were some one submarine, yes, but no real Russian ones, at least.
No, there were submarines. There was. They do that all the time. You know, they fly over with bombers and all kinds of stuff just to provocate. But I don't think they will do anything really.
And when they do and nothing happens, they present it on TV as a great success in demonstrating power.
They do that in Russia, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but I mean, like, of course, the only kind of real threat against Scandinavian countries are it's you guys, you Russians. I don't know if you Jewish Russians, but in particular, but
Yeah, no, blame Jewish Russians. That's fine.
yeah,
oh, please
blame it on the Jews.
Jews, Russians.
Don't blame it on Putin. Blame it on the
That's
Jewish
the
Russians.
most horrible people, the Jew Russians. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the Russian, anyway Hitler's today, and also Jewish, so double bad.
And communists.
That's the reason why they're.
It's the same
bad.
thing, you know. It's the Jews that's behind the communists.
I'm reading a news story, and I think it's got the quote of the year. Do you know of a man called Andrej Danko from Slovakia? Have you ever heard of him? Chairman
no.
Andrej Danko of Slovakia. No, right. Slovakia has barred Islam State religion tightening church laws. And when he was questioned by the media regarding this, his quote was, "Islamification starts with a kebab."
With a what?
A kebab. Do you know what a kebab is?
Kebab.
A doner kebab. Yeah.
It's sort of like what the Turks have with meat on a skewer, and then you put it in a bit of bread.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't get it.
So he says, Islamification starts with a kebab. So what they've done is they've banned Islam becoming a state religion in Slovakia to prevent
that was one news.
over.
Where was this news? Here. Discrimination against Muslims. But I think that's stupid by Slovakia, because they have only 2,000 Muslims, and how can really 2,000?
I mean, what's going to be ending with? If it starts off with a kebab, what's going to happen in 10 years' time? Are they going to have
Shish kebab, maybe?
shish kebabs, doner kebabs? Oh, hummus.
Hummus, yeah, that would be horrible, because that's more Arabic. Yes, that's way more terrible.
It just tickled me funny as the quote of the year, that one. Islamification starts with a kebab.
So they consider Greece, where kebab is just as widely spread as the Orthodox religion.
Yeah, they have different. Their kebabs are different. Their kebabs are different. They have chili sauce. If you want to have a Turkish kebab, you have yogurt.
No, the Greek have gyros with tzatziki. That's way different.
And you want to tell me that they have no kebab?
They have no kebab. No, they have it different sauce.
Have it probably.
One of them has chili, and the other one has yogurt. And you can tell the two countries by what sauce they offer you. I learned that years ago up in North Wales. Most edificated news. And I've also had to destroy the...
Kebab is Islamic, and gyros is democratic. So just to be...
Yeah. Do you know how you could also destroy the economics of the Muslim world? Well, apparently, money has animal fat in it. All the vegans are going absolutely crazy over the fact that the new £5 note has tallow in it. Now, if they were to use pork fat instead of tallow, beef fat, which the Hindu are getting upset about, you could destroy you could force every Muslim out of your nation, couldn't you? It's just like the Indians when they said there was pork in the bullets.
Is that really? I mean, that's a long fiqh debate you can have. Like, you can't eat pork, but if you just have pork as an ingredient in making money, I don't know. I'm not sure that would. I mean, one thing that should destroy all kind of Muslim economy is that they are using interest, and interest is even worse than eating pork. But a lot of Muslims have bank accounts with interests, and I mean, it's avoiding interests in this kind of globalized economy is impossible almost.
Well, they don't. That's what this survey I was pointing out was saying, that the Muslims in the UK, the vast majority, they have their NatWest, they have their Barclays account, they do get their interest. It's only the religious fanatics, the real extremists who want to have the interest-free banking.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
interest is even worse than eating pork, I think.
Did you see the two web pages I posted in the group chat? I can't post them in the regular chat on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I can show it here, but I can't read it that fast.
Well, no, you'd have to leave it for the. If you could post it on the. What do you call it?
Then that in the description box later, of course.
Yeah, if you post it later, then anybody who wants to could actually click on the read publication. That is actually a link to actually read the PDF documents.
Yeah, I will put them in the description box, of course.
The one I posted underneath that about the Gatestone interest, that's about AIA and Hamza Torsis as a little group.
Can I ask you, Jews for Jesus, how is it to be Jewish in Russia?
I'm not in Russia.
You're not Russia?
I'm not. I don't live in Russia. I live right now. I'm in Germany.
Ah, okay. Well, that's fine.
So he's a communist and probably a Nazi.
And the Jew.
And the Jew. Are you maybe also black and gay?
Oh, what was your opinion on Castro?
What?
Do you asking all or just?
I have too little information to give an opinion about him. Really.
Well, Castro was actually quite a fan of the Middle East and the terrorist groups, wasn't he?
Well, I don't have enough information to give an opinion on him. Really, I just the first time that he got into my mind was when he delivered when he retired and gave the rule to his brother. So that's the first information that I have about him. That's the first time he appeared on my radar. So really, if I give you an opinion, that would be nothing at all, because it's based.
With retired, you mean he died, right?
No, he retired something like 5 years ago.
Okay, no, I didn't know that. Could be,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
And then Raúl Castro took over his position. Actually, one thing I remember about him is that the only successor that I can possibly have is the Communist Party of Cuba, and and I find it quite strange that you say that, and then everybody considers Raúl Castro to be your successor. Yeah, that's really all I can say about him, because this is all what there is in my memory.
So not all communists are connected to each other. Is that the lesson we learn here?
No, not like all the true communists, but he was not a true communist, obviously.
Well, Russia's never really gotten on with China, has it? I mean, they've been at sort of like strained tensions.
So Abu Molid, come on, say something intelligent to us.
Sorry, what were you talking about? About Castro.
No, something about Islam. You are here,
Intelligent about Islam.
Our scholar, our Arabic scholar.
What do you want to know?
But for me, I know everything about Islam.
You know everything. Okay. Well, wash your hands 3 times before when you make wudu. Okay.
What's wudu?
Just 3 times, wasn't it 4 times?
No, 3 times.
What is wudu?
When you the ritual cleansing.
What I never really got is why do you need to clean your nose? Because Satan was there, but still you can't detect Satan with technology today. But he is somehow limited to openings to the body. I don't really get that.
To be honest, I don't get that either. He's supposed to, if they're a jinn, we're talking about jinn.
Satan is also a jinn.
But they're not. They don't necessarily talk about the Satan. They're talking about his like warriors, the devilish jinn. But I don't understand that at all. Maybe the simple reasons there are no jinn. But they are supposed to consist of fire. And fire is actually a process that we understand pretty well. So I find it a bit peculiar. Why can't we detect this jinn if they are made of fire?
But if your nose starting to burn, you know that there are jinns in there right now.
Where?
If your nose starts to burn, then you know it. That is true.
There's jinns. Yeah.
Well, here's a topic. Why don't we talk about Satan? You see, there was this very good synopsis of the involvement of Satan through the Old Testament to the New. And I was wondering how it differs in Islam.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, actually. The evolution of Satan. Maybe Jews. I have to just take a break here. Jews for Jesus. Can't you explain like the evolution of Satan in the Old Testament?
From the top of my head, there is. I don't recall actually a particular appearance of Satan in the Old Testament. If you open the Genesis story, you read about the snake, and whoever reads the Bible for you, because you don't do it yourself, tells you to associate the snake with the Satan. But the classical view of Judaism is that Satan is a personification of the evil, the evil inclination in yourself. Does that make any sense?
This snake thing, didn't the Jew take this later from the Christians at all? About the snake and the Satan connection?
Well, the term Satan appears, I think, when you talk about angels. So one of the angels, the one that is responsible for listing all your transgressions, all the times where you transgress the law, and also how do you say that?
Yeah, he was an eternity.
Also the deceiver that who makes you to who tests you in life to make you transgress the law in order to have some material in front of God to be the persecutor. So this personification is called Satan. Yeah, but
what's the word they use in
Satan.
Old Hebrew language?
Well, it depends on what. For the Satan is really Satan. That's a Hebrew name of it. The snake is called Nahash. And who else? What else do we have? Oh yeah, there is also a passage about sacrificing a goat, one in the temple and one in the desert for Azazel. So another word would be Azazel.
What's in the book of Job? What word are they using there?
Book of Job. There you have to make me Google because I don't know it
in the Hebrew language.
Yeah, therefore I need to find it in Hebrew. So continue talking about Satan. I will Google it for you.
Okay, I can talk about. I'm very interested in this, like how the idea of Satan emerged, because I think that Satan in Islam is a pretty complex figure. If you look at Satan in the Old Testament, he doesn't really take the form as he take in the New Testament. And but you have an older religion that is way older than Christianity, Buddhism. And Gautama Buddha he lived maybe like 600 or 500 years before Christ. And in Buddhism, there is the concept of Mara, and he is a kind of a titan or something, like some kind of a deva, but not kind of the highest kind of deva, but the kind of deva or a divine being that is like a jealous deva, like a realm below the highest devas, the highest gods. And he's like in another realm, and he went and tempted the Buddha the night before he was enlightened, and he came with his daughters and took different forms and so on. So what I find kind of interesting is like how, if you look at the story when Jesus was tempted out in the desert, like how similar that story is to the Buddhist story, and or I think it's more similar to the Buddhist Mara than to the story of Satan in the Old Testament. So I'm suspecting that there has been a kind of that Buddhist idea of Mara has traveled westward and kind of infected this Jewish idea of it, or like
not only that, I think, but also of course the old Greek mythology. If you look at how is Satan depicted today, more or less, he is the biggest enemy of God himself, and he has every time more or less a trident in his hand. And if you look on the Greek mythology, the figure who is the enemy of Zeus is his brother Poseidon, and Poseidon, or was it Poseidon, or was that the Roman?
I mean Zeus.
Zeus was the main god, the
Yeah,
all-father of God, and his brother has the trident and was his enemy in general.
Yeah.
I think they mixed up their also, of course, stories. That's also to consider. And the other figure about bringing enlightenment to the people, I mean, that's Jesus in Christianity, of course, and he was crucified. And strangely enough, who was crucified in the Greek mythology and who brought enlightenment to the people and was friend of the people and brought wisdom, etc., was Prometheus. That's also to consider.
Prometheus. He wasn't crucified really, but yeah. He was chained to a rock and a bird.
No, that was another one. That was Sisyphus.
Prometheus.
Sisyphus that's another god.
No. The myth of Sisyphus is the one that is rolling this rock upward.
Every day.
Yeah, that's another story. I mean, Prometheus was he was trying to, or he invented fire, so Zeus punished him and chained him to chained him to a mountain or something.
And then bringing wisdom. That's the
he stole fire from the gods and for his eternal punishment, etc. And it wasn't a trident. That's Satan has a pitchfork.
But
Trident
that is very late. If you can look at like the early Christian traditions, that picture is very late. I think it's just like that kind of picture that we have today is from maybe from the Dark Ages, or like maybe even just before the Renaissance and so.
Yeah, they invented a lot of history about Satan in the Middle Ages, which has nothing to do with
most of the images we get is from that period. But what I'm interested in is like how it evolved in the so-called monotheistic religions.
The one thing I hadn't heard mentioned when I went to make me coffee was when you read the Old Testament to the New Testament, Satan starts with a small s and then becomes a capital S by the time he gets to Jesus. So he goes from being the accuser who has to follow God's will and is subordinate to God's limitations in Job, where Satan says, well, let's test his faith. And God says, yes, we can, but you can't do X, Y, and Z to him. Just make him change his curse me or something. Until you get to Jesus, where he becomes a capital S, a named person, where he's tempting Jesus with all the wonders of the world and authority. And I was wondering, how does Islam take it? It's obviously that he has to be the capital S, the Mr. Satan.
Well, it's I can come to the grammar of that, but before I forget this, Jews for Jesus. You posted here the Hebrew text.
Yes.
So it's Satan in Job.
It's Satan in Job. It's Satan. As if you would read it in a non.
I don't. Do you know? Does that word come from some kind of verb root?
Etymology.
Yeah, or like the verb root of it. Three letters.
It's already 3 letters, so it's STN. I can look up what.
So it's Satana or something like that.
It's STN. You just sin tet nun. That's
okay. Okay. Do you know what that verb root means? What does that verb root mean in Old Hebrew? It's like tempting or something, or trying, or.
I don't know. I didn't analyze that in my times when I was religious. So
yeah, but maybe you know.
And I don't speak Hebrew. I'm not even close to be fluent. But something.
Okay.
But it's. Do you speak Arabic?
Yes.
So I don't know if. Do you know the root system should be the same? So you could.
Yeah, that's why I asked what's the verb root, because maybe then sometimes you can hear what they mean. It's the same, you know. Often it's very similar. It's just like they make a little bit difference.
Can I ask why isn't that not Situn or Sutin or something like that? Why you can determine it's Satan?
You have never. It was never being written down before the 10th century, but the name comes. This word Satan is introduced in regular reading, so you build up on the tradition of how it's been read during liturgy. So even though you're correct, you don't know how it was originally, because the vowel system that exists only from the 8th century. But because what is the reason to assume that something has changed?
Actually, there are actually quite good reasons to believe that it is pretty much the same, because like in like philology you have these rules that have proved to be absurdly correct over time, so you can be quite sure that it probably hasn't changed very much, and if it has changed, it's probably just a minor change. Maybe it's like in Arabic it's shaitan, so there is more like a sh word.
Yeah, but
then
I mean in Hebrew at least you can say, well, we don't need to really take it literally, because we don't claim every single word in the old Hebrew Bible is by God itself. But on the other hand, the Muslims and in Islam it's the claim. It is never changed. And I mean, you don't know, because people make mistakes, even if they write things down, because not everybody who writes things write it entirely correctly or pronounce it correctly and say it correctly to the next generation, etc. So I mean,
okay. Do you know? Are you familiar with like the so-called science of philology? Like how can you take say some funny German word, some classical German word?
Schnitzel.
Schnitzel. No, not some other more. The word for what's the word for horse, for example, in German?
Pferd.
What?
Pferd.
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 Pferd. Pferd.
Yes. Like
yeah, that's weird.
In the meantime, I found a root dictionary with the translation. It's to oppose, to be against.
Be against. That's the word root.
Yeah, I posted it in the group chat if you're interested.
Yeah, but that makes sense. Okay, yeah, that makes sense when I think about it from like the Arabic.
Anyway, you were talking about this
No, but because now I was thinking about the similarities between Hebrew and Arabic, so that makes sense. That's the word root hasn't changed that much. Like what is it? 1,500 years. They like these two, or maybe it's more than 1,500
maybe
years.
more, because
it is more. Also, at least the Hiob Job is the oldest book of the Hebrew Bible.
There are many people who consider it to be the oldest book, so
it's not even sure if it really was part of.
Yeah, but it is more or less pretty sure that is like the 8th or 9th century BC.
But anyway, the point is, it hasn't changed that much, and that proves the absurd kind of consistency. These kind of the rules that exist in philology, they are absurdly effective. the word, like the changing of words follows like weirdly exact patterns, which is, I don't understand why it works. That's why I wanted you to say some funny German word that has how words changed over time.
I think in German is pretty way different to think about the language in general, because it is way.
I wanted to make a comparison with a Scandinavian language. It's the same language family, and therefore I wanted to show.
I don't know about Scandinavian language because Scandinavian, I don't know how much Latin got into Scandinavian. In Germany, you have way more Latin things mixed up.
But even Latin is the same language family. Therefore, like it's in Latin, it's a hippo or something. Hippo for horse. So you can see hippo in Scandinavian language, hest. In English, horse. In you can take some other. So like this is like the word for horse is probably one of the oldest words we can trace, because we can trace it back to the Proto-Indo-Europeans that lived in what's today southern Russia, on the steppes there, southern Russia, eastern Ukraine, that area. So that's one of the oldest words, but it's the same kind of rules applies to Semitic languages also. They change with the same kind of frequency and the same kind of pattern.
Yeah, I've heard that there are certain patterns how you can change the words and even the vowels. Like there are differences between North and Southern German, and what you have is it's called the change the sequence of consonants. So even if the consonants of the root are changing, they follow a certain pattern.
Yeah.
So in German, you would say in the south you have the word for cat, that would be Katze, and in the north, in let's say in Dutch, which is kind of a dialect of German for that purpose, you would say kat, which is the ts sound moved into.
Because in Scandinavian language is cut.
Cut, exactly. Cut, cut, and cut. It didn't go off that far.
And in English, cat.
Yeah.
So, although I think the word cat is probably. Okay.
It's probably not as old as the horse.
No, it's not as old as the horse because cat came in. But there are other things. I think the oldest preserved Germanic language is Gothic. Some monks on the time.
Oh, who speaks that still?
No one speaks it today.
Hmm.
But it's preserved in some book.
And there was also the thing that once scripture develops in language, you have once no, not every scripture, but once you have a way to write down phonetically, like as we do in Arabic, Hebrew, German, Latin, whatever, when you have symbols that represent sounds. So once you have that, the language gets preserved over longer time.
Well, but yeah, you can know for sure that it hasn't changed. But the funny thing is that we can be pretty sure, like what the word we can it's like doing a kind of algebra, whatever you should call it. Mm-hmm. You can even languages that we don't have an idea of, like Proto-Indo-European, we can be quite sure of roughly how it sounded, even though it's like thousands of years ago, because it follows very it has something to do with like how the human brain processes languages, and like the changes follow like very kind of logical patterns. Like if a word, if a language changes, for example, the sound s to sh, it doesn't just change the sound in one word, it changes the sound in all the words in the language. You see what I'm saying? Can you give another example of a word that starts with s in Old Hebrew, for example?
With s.
But that, well, that you can explain what it means in English, because then maybe I can give another Arabic example.
I can give you opposite thing. I can give you a Hebrew word that starts with sh.
No. But then I don't know in Arabic.
It would. I happen to know what it is in Arabic.
Okay.
So the Hebrew word for name is Shem.
Okay.
And the Arabic word is the Arabic root is something with sm also.
Yeah, ism.
So there is sh turned into an s.
Okay. So do you know any other Old Hebrew word that have the sh sound, except for that?
So
Shalom, is that Old Arabic?
Yeah.
Hebrew. Shalom is Old Hebrew.
Yes.
In Arabic it's salam. So there you have another. That's what I mean. Like
yeah, but here it went from sh to s.
Yeah. But the point is, look, that's the logic. If it changes from sh to s, it's not just one word that changes. All the words in the language changes, and this is surprisingly consistent. Like if you can follow like how words have changed from Proto-Indo-European into Sanskrit, into German language, into Latin, into Albanian language. Like when the word changes, they changes in a very logical way, and the changes with like all the words changes in the same way. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but in the case of Satan and Shaitan,
yeah,
it goes vice versa.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, but what I mean is that during that period, it was probably the opposite. But now I'm maybe presupposing that it's come from the same word root. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I suspect that's the case. But back to the subject, like how did the GP? You had some question before. Sorry, what was it? You said something about Shaitan was from singular to...
Yes, you've already talked about how he was the accuser, but he starts off as a generic the accuser, small a. He wasn't a person. He was just an angel, one of God's dog's bodies, not very important. He was God's way of testing people. But by the time you get to Jesus, he becomes the personification of all evil. He doesn't take orders from God anymore. He's a God in his own right, extremely powerful, able to manipulate and own the earth and offer it to Jesus if Jesus was to pray to him. And that's a complete change. What do you call it? A metamorphosis.
Yeah, he definitely changes.
I don't remember correctly in the New Testament because you also have there another figure, Lucifer. So
it's the same person. Lucifer.
Well, not exactly. That's the point.
Are the same person. Lucifer means the fallen angel.
Yeah, the light bringer, etc. So there have you also the more or less little bit of the Prometheus story.
A lot of that came in the Middle Ages, the changes of his name to mean other things.
Why
in
why
the
did you
Middle
post
Ages.
us the doormat?
Yeah, I posted that because I just found a news story that just got put on the web regarding a councilwoman who objected to doormats being sold on Amazon because they had the name Allah written on them.
What the shop or Amazon prohibited
Amazon
this?
UK, yeah.
They did prohibit to sell this thing.
They
or
were
what?
selling this, and they've apologised to the councilwoman who's put up a protest about it. I could think it's quite a good seller, really. I mean, it was
That's interesting that they prohibit such thing. I mean, normally they are pro religion and
The reason is
doormat
it's
what you
weird
put
that they
your feet
made
on.
it in the first place, because what you're gonna do with it? You're gonna
you're gonna step on
stand
it and yeah. Oh well, of course, yeah. That could be the reason, because it promotes like putting
Atheism.
dirt on Allah.
It was probably. I mean, Amazon doesn't make products, do they? They just have independent contractors who sell now on their site their wares. So it's like a big marketplace. So obviously, someone who thought he might make money out of selling Allah doormats came a bit of a cropper.
Okay.
Anyway,
I just want.
Back to Satan. How could this Jesus Satan, who owns the earth and can offer it to Jesus as sort of like a temptation, end up living in an Arab's nose? Isn't that a bit of a come down from this superpower?
Nose, but that's the jinn. But that we can talk about. Okay, this is the weird thing when it comes to Islam. When that tradition gonna like emerge into the Islamic faith, before Islam in the Bedouins, or whatever you should call them, the Arabs that lived there in the so-called Jahiliyyah, I mean, they had ideas of these jinns, and
Are you saying that the devil is a jinn in the Arab's life rather than an angel?
I mean, look, the Arabs, they were pagans, or whatever you should call it. They didn't have a what do they call it, stake in the game, what do you call it? they didn't care. They had their own it's the same thing like you in Britain back in those days. You were pagan guys. Oh well, then you were Christian, but
Well, like all old cultures, they had for any situation a special god, like for rain or for dust or for love or for war.
But the Arabs, they had their jinn, okay? They existed before Islam. They had their stories. So when they were supposed to emerge this, like, they lived next door to Christianity, then they were supposed to emerge this to their like new kind of Arab fitting religion, where they merged the Judeo-Christian tradition into their old Arabic myths. Then suddenly Satan become a jinn, which is a bit problematic because he's supposed to be a fallen angel. So you have all this surah in Surah Al-Baqarah and other places where he is this angel that is refused to make sujood to Adam and so on. But he is also a jinn. So there you can see like the conflict between the old Arab mythology merging into...
Not only that, but also jinns becomes in general shaitans, meaning plural. That's also strange.
Yeah. Shaitan is probably from Satan.
I suspect the jinn come closely linked to the Greeks when they conquered the area, because the Greeks used to have this idea there were elements, and fire was such an element. It was when wood burned, it became fire, so it had to be a tangible element.
I mean, the word jinn just means like the word root of jinn means hidden, so it's you can't see it, or like You see what I'm saying? What's the word for that in Hebrew? Like, do you have some similar? You probably have a similar word.
What, hidden?
The word for what?
For jinn, like for something that is hidden or something that you can't see.
Something that is hidden.
It's probably similar to jinn.
There is
or the word brute.
there are two entities that I would associate with jinn by what I described. There is like demon is dibuk, and shadim. That's maybe something like spirits. Shadim.
Yeah. But what's the okay? What's the word for? What's the old word for example, hiding, or not hiding, but for being invisible, for example?
Invisible.
Yeah, in old Hebrew.
Have to research that again.
But anyway, the point is, but one of my favorite, one thing that I want to know is like where this like this idea of Satan come from originally, because if you look at the story in the Old Testament, it doesn't fit the later story at all, I think. But in one way, the old Buddhist / Vedic like version of Mara, in one way fit like the later tradition of who Satan became more. So I think there's a suspicious link there, that maybe the ideas of Buddhism and Vedic traditions traveled westwards and kind of fertilized the idea of Satan. Maybe.
Well, it depends which figure exactly should it fit in the Old Testament. What are you searching for? Because before anything came from the Vedic or similar things, you had the Mesopotamian whole what's the word? Just the set of gods before it traveled.
The Sumerian and Babylonian guys.
Yeah, more or less the Sumerian were even probably before the Vedic gods, at least fixed in a set of gods or a family of gods.
Well, the Bible makes mention of Baal. He was a Sumerian type of devil.
No, Baal is in terms of Sumerian. No, that's a Babylonian, because Sumerian is more or less 2,500 before Babylonian culture.
I think the Carthaginians they wrote, "May Baal destroy the enemy ships" or something on their warships. So they had the god Baal as well.
There was a set of gods of the ancient Semitic gods that Carthaginians or Phoenicians, the people of Canaan worshipped also the people of Moab, and we have in the Old Testament you still have the remnants of that in terms of Baal is mentioned, and also Ashtarti is mentioned in the form of Esther in the book of Esther. So the fertility goddess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a pantheon from before the time of the Old Testament. So. Is that what you wanted to say, that the Satan might be a figure from there?
No, it was GP that said that Baal could be some kind of.
Well, it was always referred to by the prophets as being one of the nasty guys that were going to destroy Israel. and get rid of the promised land. More so than, say, the Egyptians and their various gods.
That is kind of interesting because, I mean, I think the Jews were like from the same stock, so to speak, and that the only difference was that they focused on the god Jahweh. I don't know what the word root for that in Hebrew. How do you pronounce that, by the way, in Old Hebrew? Yahweh.
If I would know, the problem is that this is a special word where it is, as a Jew, you should not pronounce it at all.
Okay.
Which is one of the commandments, which means that you don't know the pronunciation. The reason why Jehovah is, or Jehovah, or whatever you might pronounce it, is common is because they, at some point in the liturgy, the vocalization of the substitute word, which is the Lord, Adonai. So this word is used in the liturgy to replace the name of God. And the root, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, the root of the name has been the diacritic marks for the vowels have been added. So and the diacritic marks were not taken of the original name of God, but rather of the word Lord. So this is how we come up with the.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not even. Maybe it can be Yehovah or whatever.
Yeah.
Either you say Jehovah, therefore you have to be stoned. You know that.
I have to be stoned.
Yeah, not only you, but Abu Mullet also.
No, but
don't worry. I'm already stoned.
Don't you know the Life of Brain, the movie?
The Life of
Everybody
Brian.
who says Jehovah has to be stoned because taking the name of the Lord in vain.
Yeah, they should go to California. Yeah, but the thing is that God Yahweh, I think that you know, like in Zoroastrianism, like Zoroaster was a guy that many attributes like the birth of monotheism to, but it's true that he promoted the worship of only one God, but it wasn't really that he didn't believe in more than one God. It's just no, don't, because there were like raiders, like there were some guys like lived as like peasants, farmers, and then there were like raiders that like just raided them and took all their possessions and the food and so on. So Zoroaster came and said, you know, you shouldn't worship these like kind of Indian guys' gods. You should only worship the one supreme God.
Ahura Mazda is his name, just
Yeah,
the way.
exactly. And but I think that something similar happened in Canaan, or in like what is today Israel. That you had a bunch of gods, and one of them was Baal, and one of them was Yahweh. But then you had a smaller group that said no. And maybe I'm not sure about this, but maybe Yahweh was like the warrior god. It wouldn't surprise me. And then they said, no, we should only worship Yahweh, in the same way as Zoroaster said, we should only worship the supreme God. And so, and then this Canaanite group diverged from the other Canaanites, and in that way, Baal became our main enemy. Who knows? I don't know for sure, but this is just an hypothesis I have.
I think it's shared by other historians as well. Baal was supposed to be the god of fertility, and if you had bountiful crops, that was one who you would pray to. But Jehovah was the god of war, And what happens if you've got bountiful crops? You've got somebody who comes along and steals it. So the praying to Jehovah is sort of like making sense, because it's saying always keep your armies greater than your crops, because then you can defeat people who try to steal from you.
Say that again. I didn't get it really.
All right, let's see. Baal was the god of fertility, and if you have prayers to the god of fertility, you get gracious bounties of crops, lots of crops. And what happens when you've got a lot of something, like food? You get somebody in a neighbouring country sending their armies over to steal it, to take it away. So if Jehovah was the god of war, praying to the god of war is doing rather like what America has a huge super army to prevent anybody coming over and stealing your food. So if you
almost a kind of mirror image to what happened with Zoroaster. In Zoroaster case, they were living as this kind of peasant guys, farming, doing farming stuff. And then came dudes from India and raided them. But in that case, they already had a supreme god, and then Zoroaster say, if by worshipping these raiders' gods, you're just making them stronger. So instead, you should only worship the supreme god. But here it's maybe like it's a kind of clan war between only worshipping Yahweh and worshipping Baal.
Well, before those, Jehovah became sort of like famous and really big. Tom Holland used to say that each tribe had their own god, their own deities, and if they were beaten by another tribe, they would automatically drop their god and adopt the conquering tribe's god, because obviously their god was stronger.
Yeah. Opportunistic bastards.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, really. I mean,
it makes sense, but it's kind of.
I think that's how gods actually came into existence, because of the archaeological evidence in Europe. I remember watching this documentary, which said something in the region of 40,000 years ago, mankind had travelled up through Turkey, and one branch went along the Danube into Europe, and another branch went into Russia. And the branch that went into Russia made a U-turn and went heading into Europe. And the distinguishing thing they noted was the Russian group that was going into Europe now had these sort of like idols. Which
What are you talking about? Can take that from the beginning. What time period are you talking about now?
40,000 BC. 40,000 BC.
40,000 BC.
Yeah. The figure itself looked like a woman, big breasts.
Ah, okay. Now I know what you're talking about. I know that
no
fat,
legs, no arms.
Fat girl with big breasts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was probably one of the first gods, but it was also a way of saying to your neighbour tribe, I'm one of you guys. I share the same values. So don't attack me. And that's probably
that's
where the
very
gods...
speculative, but...
Well, I think that's probably how gods evolved. You know,
I think gods were around even before that.
Well, yes, maybe, and maybe not.
I think they evolved when human got this kind of creative spark, when they started to make art and draw things and had the ability to imagine other worlds and things like that. And I think that evolved back in Africa way before that.
No, the jewelry actually started in Turkey. The first jewelry they found was around about 600.
Neanderthals had jewelry.
No, but you're talking about Homo sapiens.
Yeah, but Neanderthals divided from us way before that, and they had jewels too. They made
Yeah, but they were separate.
They made artworks
The
too.
very first Homo sapiens jewelry that has ever been found was in Turkey. The oldest ones.
Well, there are findings in South Africa that is very old, where they find this. What is this called? This reddish rock.
Oh wow, gosh, I know what you're on about.
So that kind of behavior has existed for a long time. Just because it's not the first time you find it, is what I'm saying. I think that has been around at least as long as the species Homo sapien, because even the Neanderthals did things like that.
Well, I know the Neanderthals did because the oldest grave sites they have of them have articles buried with the dead Neanderthals. So
Yeah,
they might have had a religious system, or they might have had an idea of life after death, and they were giving favorite toys to their.
I remember the exact evidence,
deceased.
but they buried their loved ones, and I mean they were. I think like evolution doesn't just happen
How do
suddenly.
you know that? Maybe they buried only the ones who
I don't remember the exact evidence, but I remember I researched this, and I was quite convinced that.
Yeah, but,
and if you think about it logically,
what I mean is maybe you were only buried if you were really hated by the others.
yeah,
Well, they
maybe it's
buried
the
you,
opposite.
they ate you, they cremated you. They did all sorts of things, depending which group of Neanderthals it was.
I think it was some kind of child or something that they did. It was buried in a kind of ritualistic way.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely a realistic.
Neanderthal child, and this was before Homo sapien reached Europe.
Yes.
So I was quite convinced that by the evidence. I was skeptical to the beginning, but then I was convinced. I remember. I can research that maybe. But I think that kind of symbolic thinking, and it's very old.
Of course, we don't know what their motivations and faults were when they actually did it. Like, they could have been offering it to a god, or they could have been offering it just because they missed them, you know.
Yeah.
What we do know is animals don't do it. I've never seen my dog go out and bury his favourite bones. For
elephants do similar things, not burying at least, but somehow they come along. If some elephant dies, they return to the place and mourning the dead ones that we know of.
I think it's like immediately when the cerebral cortex becomes complex enough for like the creature to start to imagine kind of other possible worlds or other, then you start to see that kind of behavior. I don't know if chimpanzees do something similar, but
actually, yes, that reminds me about that gorilla that they taught to do sign languages, and she was questioning life after death, I believe, in one of the clips they put up on YouTube. It's very weird.
There's nothing special about us human beings. We talked about racism or something. I mean, chimpanzees and bonobos, and also gorillas, and even like other primates, they are very similar to us, and we want to think that we are special, but actually, if we could like know how it was to be a chimpanzee or even some of the lower primates, I think we would be surprised how rich the inner life they have.
Well, as I was saying when I was younger, we're all animals, but some of us are more animal than others.
Yeah, I like to say in my humility that all human beings are equal, but I am more equal than others.
Why have we talked
the more equalist from us all? Yes, of course.
George Orwell, isn't it?
Yeah, that's George Orwell's the Animal Farm.
There is a monkey race. They even have different different tones for hunters, meaning the same hunters coming from the side, from above, from the front, etc., for the different hunter. That's interesting. Not only humans have this, but there are clearly other, not apes, but monkeys, meaning this with tails even have.
I think there are like certain kind of arithmetic tasks. Chimpanzees are even faster than humans, like simple arithmetic. But what I mean is like we are biologically programmed to be racist against other primates. So we think that we are so special because we have this language, we can communicate with each other and share our thoughts and so on. But I think if we could have some machine and we could know how it is to be a chimpanzee for a day, I think we would be surprised how similar they are, like how little it is that they can probably also imagine things, although not in the same kind of symbolic way, not with language in the same way, but they probably have some kind of imagination and maybe even some thoughts of like life after death or something. And chimpanzee gods. No, not that kind of, but I think it's way richer.
Supernatural monkeys.
Yeah. And chimpanzee genes maybe. No, not that. Not that. Not exactly like that, but I think we would be surprised how rich their inner life, how rich it is, their inner lives.
Well, I think probably the chimpanzee would end up being more saner. I've often thought that humankind is absolutely loony. Some of the things that people think and behave and do, even on the simplest level, is absolutely bonkers.
I mean,
sorry, GP said that on this point you are wrong. That would be the bonobos that are way more.
I'm afraid whenever I think of
similar.
bonobos, I just think of Anna Kasparian now.
Because the chimpanzees, they also really go on some times on war against other chimpanzees tribes.
Yeah, they are pretty violent. But bonobos, they have a lot of sex.
Yeah, that's their solution to make peace. Just fuck with each other. Why not?
Yeah, you shouldn't fuck with anyone. Sorry, excuse my French.
Today, the bonobos, they would be the most eligible race or species to invent the internet.
I think that actually there is a reason why we are more similar to chimpanzees, because I think one of the reasons why you have to develop a large brain is because you have to understand the social threats, like that are posed by other dudes in your tribe or whatever.
Well,
but if you think about like we are more mad than chimpanzees and bonobos, I was thinking about, have you seen like statistics of like Nobel Prize winners and things like that, how common like various mental diseases are among them? I mean, maybe there is some kind of trade-off between being very intelligent and
they often
being kind
say
of crazy.
Genius is a one step or one thin line on the border of insanity. I've never really looked at the Nobel Prizes, but I also hear other people saying Muslims never tend to get any. And I can't really logically, in the humanitarian sort of like thinking, understand why a Muslim is more stupid than a European. It doesn't make sense. They should have exactly the same brain power, be able to do exactly the same sort of scientific achievements.
Has this to me that this is an argument for Islam is peaceful and therefore Muslims are peaceful all, or what?
No, it's an argument that it just says why. I mean, I wondered why Africans, sort of like the South African area, never really,
like stop spamming.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's like stop spamming. Now, I was thinking, I asked this question with some friends once. I was asking, why was the South Africans, those south of the desert, why didn't they have massive civilizations like the North Africans, the Egyptians, for example, and the Carthaginians? And this guy said to me that the reason was the viruses and the bacteria. There were so many mutations of these things going on down south. If ever the Africans started forming up big communities, they were wiped out. So they couldn't invent things because they didn't have a civilization that could last long enough to invent anything.
What is this? There's an historian or something. He's called. He has written a book called something like Iron, something like Blood, Iron, and Farming or something. When he like compares different, like why civilization emerge in certain places, and I think his main reason was that you had enough of protein sources from the Fertile Crescent, and that was the main reason.
Well, you got.
But I mean, there are different theories.
I mean, you've got South America and North America. Oh, dog. The dog's attacking me. But South America invented a civilization.
Yeah.
But they hit an evolutionary
they didn't invent iron, though. And they had only... There was something about that. Their protein sources was only from... I don't remember his argument. I'm not even sure I'm convinced by it. But
the Red Indians had all the mammoth, didn't they? They hunted the mammoth to extinction.
The mammoth is way before civilization. I think the last mammoths lived in... I mean, that's way back in the hunter-gatherer age. That is way before civilization. But he is talking about like post-invention of agriculture. What is it called?
And the Chinese?
Jews for Jesus, help us. We Goyams don't we don't understand anything. We're too stupid.
Explain to everybody what a goyim is, because if you just spell out some things, nobody knows it. Well, I know because in the German.
One more time, the word goy means people. People as a nation, and within Judaism, the surrounding population is named as the people. So the non-Jews are labeled as goyim, means the people. But because of the historic conflicts with the surrounding populations that always came up, the word goy became negatively connotated and means that what other expectations what expectations can we have? He is just a goy, so something like that.
As somehow a subhuman.
It's the people. It's the. Is it similar to like in Vedic tradition? You have the Aryas, which are like the noble ones, and then you have like the lower kind of outcasts that you can...
I'm not familiar with the Vedic tradition. The original meaning is just the people or the nation, but the Jews themselves also are labeled as the goy, the nation. in the Tanakh, but usually they label themselves as the Goy Kadosh, which means the separated people or the chosen people. And the Goyim, it's without that attribute, is simply the one, the not chosen people, what you can say. I'm not.
I have a different question to you, Jews for Jesus. When you were religious, were you afraid of saying Elohim or Jehovah or Yahweh or something like that?
Yes, I was not particularly afraid because I didn't consider I didn't expect any consequences right after that, but I was afraid of generally committing a transgression against God.
So you followed the tradition to call him Adonai, right?
Not even that, because even in the tradition, the word Adonai is reserved for liturgy only. So if you say that, that means, it's like you have to use a substitute for the substitute. So in everyday speech, you refer to God as Hashem, the name that should not be pronounced. The one you know who. It's like in Harry Potter.
Yeah, that who shall not be named.
The name that should not be mentioned.
Now I found the guy at Guns, Germs, and Steel is the book. Guns, Germs, and Steel. There's also a documentary series. Okay.
So, are we done, or shall we continue? I mean, I don't care at all today. It's up to you.
I think I'm going to have to go because the dog's being very persistent for attention.
Are they fucking your leg or something?
No, the way I've got my computer set up, I've got a table beside me and he's got his front paws on the table and he's sticking his head right in my face, and whenever I reach for the mouse, his paw is trying to drag me back to tickle him, and if I stop tickling, he'll then turn around, look at me right in the eyes and start sticking his tongue in my nose. It's quite off-putting.
What he sticks his tongue in your nose, so he is probably a jinn.
He's probably after Satan. I mean, all this chat that's been
black.
Been listening and saying,
yeah, is he black? GPZ, is he black?
He's black. He's
There you have the answer.
He
is the devil. He is Satan.
Well, that is one of his nicknames, Beelzebub.
He is a jinn.
Beelzebub.
So, Abu Mulid, Jews for Jesus, have you any topics, or will you call it a day? Or
what was the video? What was the video for the week? Have you got one?
No, like I said, I'm not the guy who has really time for that. I'm a very, very bad replacement for Stop Spamming.
Oh, well, you're just a host, aren't you, really? I mean, that's what I was trying to say to the guys in the chat. This show, it's not our show, it's their show. And if they wanted to be something, they got to contribute.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's it. We're very lucky to have anybody host it, to be quite honest.
At least today, it got a little bit interesting, I think. We talked about mythology, about Satan.
And about languages.
What?
And about languages.
And about languages, yes.
This is actually the point. I don't know if you've listened to the old shows. Back in the very first setting, there were Atheismo and I think Hassan, who always introduced some linguistic facts about Arabic to the show. And they did it in a very funny way, but that made me carry over some things, so that I know some details of Arabic structure without actually speaking Arabic, and all I know was basically taken from the show with a little bit of further research on Wikipedia.
So why do they write back to
if you
front?
have like I'm too how do you say it? I'm too boring. I can't figure out anything funny to speak about. But if you have like language questions or anything,
Well,
you
no,
just
say
ask
that.
the question.
Why
Then
do-
I can.
I think
Why
we
do they write back to front?
What?
Why do they write back to front and left to right? I mean, nobody else does.
Why
It's
they?
like driving on the
Do you
road.
mean why they write from the right side?
Yeah, why do they write from back to front and from the right to left instead of like everybody else?
not everybody else.
Not
If you consider
everybody
languages, then
But that's actually an interesting question. I think there is a reason for that. But one thing, I think the reason why most languages start from the left side up is the same thing. If you, when we look at another person, the first thing that we look at is the left eye. And I think this is the same thing with dogs actually.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it's not the same thing with wolves, because wolves are not socialized in the same way. So for some reason, I remember there is some neurological reason for that they look at the left side first and then go to the right. So that's probably the reason why we start from the left.
Well,
But I
was
remember the
thinking,
reason
yeah.
why when they made the Arabic language, why they started from the right.
Because everything has to do with the right side. So.
Yeah, that's in Islam, but the Arabic language is older than
but also
Islam.
Semitic, also Aramaic and Hebrew, they also start from the right side. So it's not uniquely to Islam.
Yeah.
But there is like the Mongolian, the ancient Mongolian, well, not ancient, the medieval Mongolian language. They used to write from the top to bottom.
I think that they got from Chinese somehow.
Well, and whatever. Also, in I don't know, how was it with the ancient Egyptian scripts? What was the direction there?
I think it was from the left.
Left to right. I think that was.
I think Sanskrit is the same thing. But
it makes more sense for a right-handed guy to write from left to right anyway, because then you don't come across with the ink, etc. So
exactly, that's if you're using ink. Latin languages.
If you're using ink.
Yeah.
Well, besides the old culture, meaning Sumerian, Akkadian, and Egyptians, pretty much after that, anybody used ink more or less, some kind of ink at least.
Well, cuneiform were engraved into.
Yeah, that's
like I said, the old Norse rune
Akkadian.
language was also from left to right.
Which?
This well, I don't know. It's called in rune letters.
Runes, Celtic, you mean?
No, it's Germanic runes.
Yeah, that's the Celtics.
It's
the
not
old Celtics.
Do you mean do you think they stole it from the Celts?
Could also be.
Are you sure of this? Because this is new news.
Sure,
I've heard the theories of that they stole it from Etruscans and things like that.
Well, the Vikings had runes as well.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
They
were runes.
They weren't Celts at all. Celts.
No, that they were Germanic. The first time you see them is in an inscription in Denmark. But there are theories that they originally kind of stole them from Etruscans, and then it survived somehow. And then the Romans kind of killed the Etruscans, or I don't know how they know that.
Rome never got up as far as Scandinavia and Norway, did they?
No. But this theory is that it survived somehow. I don't know.
Now, I've always thought if you hold your hand like you're holding a pen, if you're writing from right to left, you're just going to erase whatever you wrote, aren't you? You're going to smudge the sand or
But you know this ink thing is kind of late. You know, even the runes wasn't really written in that way. They were just like using some sharp object. And
the oldest knowledge about writing, as far as I remember, was that it's linked to the Tower of Babel stories, and the theory was that whilst the Tower of Babel was being built, it was actually a real monument that was being built, but it was taking so long, there was civil unrest that would topple the king, so the education systems would stop, and you needed an education system to have workers clever enough to build this flipping building, that the myth came that people lost languages and couldn't communicate no more. So,
it's pretty late.
They were using chalk and boards.
You know, we were talking about Neanderthals before. I think
the first really writings were by the Sumerian, and it's pretty clear that they use it for trading, and they sealed stuff into jars and things like that. And on the seal they put many times the numbers and what it was inside, and that's about 4,500 BC.
I mean, it depends on what you mean by. There are, you know, how do you define written language? I mean, there are
simple signs which were also.
Then it's way older. Then it's like simple signs were used.
I mean, simple signs like you could define with a language, meaning a trader can go there and say, this word is this and that, and the other guy remembered for the next trade what it is. So the seal is somehow like an approval, and it's really a word, not only a sign, but the sign is it's visible what it could mean.
So if it's cave art in France that is like, what is it, like 30,000 years old in some cave, and that cave means this is buffalo or something. Not buffalo.
That's not the symbol I mean. If you look,
it's like a shoe shop. You'd have a picture of a shoe above the shoe shop, so a trader might be able to spot where he could buy his shoes.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yes, a little bit.
No, this was a case of the archaeologists who put forward the theory was prophesizing that you had to have an education system to train your children to be able to basically read and write, so that you would have the ability to build such a large structure. If you didn't have that basic level of education, you just couldn't do it.
What? It's true that if you don't like, learning how to read and write is kind of weird. We are like biologically programmed to being able to learn spoken language fast, but the written language is a kind of, it's it's really weird that we are able to learn it at all. But it's because we have this enormous cerebral cortex that can just...
And it can be quite strange. Have you heard those Africans who do talking with clicks and noises? Goodness.
That is so great.
The San language.
It's amazing.
The San people is actually... No, I'm going to explain why it's not racist. The San people is the... all people, or not, but like they are the closest to the original kind of Homo sapien dudes that all the human beings today are related to. So they are like the purest original Homo sapiens. The San people.
So you're racist toward yourself, or what?
No, but look at San people. It's like, what is this?
Raisins?
No, look at San people. They look real. They look like a mix between Asians and
Just go your racist way. Just go all the racist.
what's his name? This guy, he who died in
Cuba.
South Africa, the leader, Nelson Mandela. He was partly from the San people.
I never heard him do it.
And it's very weird because it only exists like in that area. But if you're interested in the evolution of languages, when did this? I can't even imitate it, but there. When did that kind of sound disappear?
Well, it
Because
hasn't, has it?
all
Because
languages
they still
are.
talk. They still
Yeah,
talk.
but why don't we use those? It's
Can't really say. I think
Because
the
it
other old
sounds weird.
language is
That
in
makes
India.
makes your tongue tired.
yeah.
Well, the other old language is in India, from what I remember. There's religious festivals that go on, and they have the priests chanting in this language which nobody understands. They've been reciting it for thousands upon thousands of years.
Are you sure they don't understand it? What language is this?
They don't understand the language. They're just doing it because that's what they've always done, and it gets taught orally.
Well, if
down the
they're
generation.
chanting in Sanskrit, there's probably some dude that understand it.
Oh no, it's not Sanskrit.
What do you mean,
Look,
this Tamil language?
No, it was a documentary I was watching about India, and it just mentioned this festival that went on where all these religious people would go to, and it had this religious group that turned up who would chant away quite happily these various prayers and songs and whatever. That's what they assumed they were, and they were in a language so old that everybody had forgotten it. It would be like an Arab chanting
In
Quran
Proto-Semitic.
in original Arabic, and nobody would understand it because it was so transformed.
Okay. Can you find that? Because I want to know what language that is. I'm a bit,
Okay, if
skeptical.
They won't be able to tell you what language it is. It's so old. It was something I found on YouTube. But yes, I will try and find the documentary for you. It'll take a while. And I'll post the link on the finished video of this chat.
Abu Molid,
Yeah.
what's that is a stupid claim. If you don't know the language, how can you demand to say which language it was? That makes no sense.
No, because I think he's talking about old Sanskrit, and I think there are some people that can figure out what it means.
Well, they couldn't figure out Egyptian, could they, until they found the Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, but why? If he's chanting in that language, you're probably talking about maybe like the Rig Veda or something.
No, I understand what
Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to see it first.
I could somehow understand what GP said mean, because probably you have just a situation for I don't know, for a wedding or for a death praying something, and you just know in which situation you chant the thing, but probably it could be that they don't have no clue what it really means. But
yeah,
they
that's the
just
same
learned.
thing with Muslims. Like many Muslims memorize the Quran, but they don't know what it means. So they memorize.
That's what's happened. They've memorized through oral tradition thousands of years these particular prayers, and nobody knows what they mean anymore.
But nobody. What language is that?
They don't know. There's just no India.
This I want to see. This was I want to see before I believe it. But
Well,
maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. But
it's going to take me a long while to find it though, because I can't remember what keywords I would need.
Okay. I give you all the time in the world, my dear GP.
Abu Molid, are you white or are you somehow brown or something like that?
I am. I have a round white face, and 2 big black eyes and a smiling face.
You look like a panda.
I'm asking that because you were learned the whole Islam things directly in Mecca or Medina. What was it?
Just in the Arab world.
In the Arab world. And were you welcomed, somehow treated especially and with more pleasure by the brown people, or?
That's very subjective. It depends on what you mean.
In the case of learning Islam, yeah. Was it something special for them to see?
I can say in general,
white,
without speaking of me, I think they take pride in their kind of cultural imperialism. So when they see people from all around the world learning their language and their culture, they take pride in that. I can say that in general. But there's also a bit, I mean, there's a mixed bag. There are Arab racists too, you can believe me.
Yeah, of course. The racists you have all around the world, that's nothing special, I mean.
Yeah.
But I just because if you look, at least I don't look anymore, but you in Germany, they are very proud if white convertites making their shahada on the stage by another white guy, and all Muslims are very proud if a white guy who knows shit about Islam just take the shahada, and that's the reason why I ask if they
that's
somehow
true. That's
are
true.
very, very proud that the white guy goes there and learns.
It's because like right now, like in their mind, the so-called white world, we're on top, which is doesn't have to do anything with the melanin in our skin, or the amount of melanin in our skin. It has to do with the almost the opposite, that we had the Renaissance happened in Europe, the Enlightenment happened in Europe, and so we got ahead in science and so on, and because of that we got kind of godlike power. So when they see native Europeans converting, that's a kind of, the feeling of power increases. What Nietzsche said in...
It's kind of worldwide, isn't it? Most of the world's cultures seem to have white-skinned people as being some kind of divine race.
Yeah.
You travel right to the other side of the globe, to Australia.
I mean, if you want to have that... we were talking about before that about the Vedic traditions. That's very, very strongly... I mean, the Vedic traditions appeared because you had these like Indo-Europeans invading northwest India and like making themselves the rulers. So that's like the original apartheid. You still have that in the caste system. And that's why the reason why you see all these gods having this blue skin, because they were, I think it comes from that they were so white that they were even blue or something.
Yeah, makes total sense. They were so white they are even blue.
But there you had that. There was a like historical reason. You had this first in the Proto-Indo-European culture in that area, like what I talked about before, like in southern Russia, eastern Ukraine. Actually, it wasn't really there. The horses, the first they started to use horses, but that was in what's today in Kazakhstan. But the culture where they use these chariots evolved there, and because this culture was very successful, so they raided west and east with their chariots, and then they took over the northwest of India and imposed their will on the populace.
Now,
These blonde beasts of prey.
now
They
I'm
were probably not
confused.
blonde, but they were
Abu
probably
Mali,
white. Yeah.
you confused me totally. Which is it, or the better, the blacks or the white?
They're not better. It's just that the chariot and the horse were used in this. What's called this steppe land, this huge steppe land that stretches from Ukraine to Kazakhstan, I think. There, where the Indo-European language evolved, the Proto-Indo-European. Now we're talking like 6,000 years ago, okay? And there they used horses, and there the charioteers or the chariot warfare probably emerged. Well, that's a long discussion. But anyway, that kind of people invaded northwestern India, and that's what the Rig Veda and the Vedic traditions come from. And they were called the Aryas. I think the original word Arya comes from... dude, how can I forget this? But I think it's something about conquest, the ones that make the conquest or something. But Arya means noble. That's why in Buddhism you have the word Arahant, which is Pali Sanskrit for Arya, or like Aryan. But this actually means noble. But that kind of system was purely racist. Well, like these Indo-European guys were like trashing these old poor Indians that lived there and imposed their will on them.
Yes, but as far as I know, the Aryan were white, right? More or less.
Yeah.
So
we are
the noble one, right?
According to the Vedic religion, yeah.
So you are an Aryan, so meaning you are a Nazi. Is that right, Abu Mali?
Well, am I really Aryan? Because then the Aryan that come from the like Proto-Indo-European guys, and so they went westwards. But I suppose that the native guys that lived in Europe and so on were probably even... I mean, that has not so much to do with genetics and things like that. There's more like culture. The reason why that language evolved was because their culture was superior, so that language... That's a long story. Yes, there are traces of these Indo-European people, or traces of the DNA in whole of Europe, and you can see maps of that. You can Google like genetics of Proto-Indo-European or Indo-European, and you will see that the densest areas is in what is today like Poland, Lithuania, all of Europe pretty much, and in northwestern India. So you can see the genetical traces from that. But if you want to know how I look like, that's, you can see. I have a white face, big smiling mouth, and black eyes. And I don't think that the amount of melanin in your skin makes you any better.
Well, if you want to stay in the sun, yes, it makes you better. At least you don't get burned.
Well, there is one evolutionary. I mean, if you're gonna live in the areas of Earth where you have long winters, you're gonna absorb, or you're gonna not absorb, but you will develop more vitamin D. On the other hand, if you're gonna live in areas where you have a lot of sun, you're gonna suffer from...
Have you ever wondered which color came first?
Well, that depends on what you mean. The Neanderthals probably had white skins. And Neanderthals existed before Homo sapien even emerged.
But I was thinking Homo sapiens coming out of Africa.
Well, then it's probably like the San people, probably. But I don't have it.
They came out of Ethiopia and North Africa, so I'm thinking...
Well, that's also another debate you can have. There are some, like... Yeah, that's from the Rift Valley is the like common story. But there's some
Lucy was found in Ethiopia, I think.
yeah, exactly. But
So
I think the story is a little bit more complicated than that. There are also founds in the caves in the seacoast in South Africa, and I think the last word. I think that one thing that like new research show is that this idea that it was only one species that suddenly emerged. This is not quite right. Actually, there were.
You don't say.
Look. There's no.
You did say.
Look. In evolution, there is no clear boundaries between one species and another. You know, there's no like either you are this or you don't. It's like in Africa, you know, in the same way as that there existed Neanderthals and Russia, Jews for Jesus. What is the place in Russia called? Denisovans. How do you pronounce that? Jews for Jesus.
What?
Denisovans man. What's it called in Russia? There's a place in Russia where they found this bone from this other human, like Denisovans or something like that. Denisovans man. Anyway, another type of man. So there were Neanderthals and another species in the Neanderthals lived in the western part and Denisovans in the eastern parts. But there probably also existed, or they did exist, other races or species in Africa. So if you want to look at like them, and you can find this when you do modern like DNA research. So like the most of the genetical kind of diversity exists in sub-Saharan Africa and not outside sub-Saharan Africa. So anyway, the point is it's a little bit more complex than maybe the old school book told us. Okay, it's not like it.
Are you telling us that it is not like it's described in the Bible and the Quran?
Oh my goodness, the Bible and Quran.
Is this your point, or what are you saying?
The Bible and Quran says that it was all the people came from Adam, and it doesn't fit the timeline at all. Like, what did the Neanderthals? You know, what's they call these guys? Denisovans. Russia, help me. It's from a Russian town. Denisovans. Like, if you just take guys from that lives outside sub-Saharan Africa, we have most of our genome comes from what we call Homo sapien, but at least a guy like Ike, for example, he's probably about 3% Neanderthal. Okay, that explains things. And also you can look at guys in Papua New Guinea. They are about as much Denisovans, whatever they're called. And also these Aborigines in Australia has interesting genome. So there you have like different species that merged into one. So Ike is, for example, he's probably 96% Homo sapien and 3% Neanderthal. But the same thing in sub-Saharan.
You are probably more Neanderthal than me.
Yeah. I'm probably 97% Neanderthal and 3% Homo sapien. But but
is this the reason why your face is so round, or what?
Yeah, exactly. So this idea that we come from one species, I mean, I wonder how they think. Like, if you have like Muslim researchers that experiment with DNA and all that, I mean, how do they explain these for themselves? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but most who I don't think those Muslims take it really serious that that we came from Adam. I mean, and how do they confirm the biology of their work if they are doing things like looking at genomes and then confirming it somehow with the Quran, which tells we are made of dirt or dust or things like that.
I remember I asked this for a sheikh. How do you explain the Neanderthal bones? And I remember he said something like that they are actually just humans. There is no Neanderthals. They just deny that they exist. But I
mean, to be fair, that is a genome thing. It's for the normal human who can't research the things. It's very somehow also hard to accept, because I mean, like the mathematics, not everybody can do that. Mathematics and researching genomes, etc. So I can understand why they are skeptical and don't just take it for granted.
The funny thing is, this guy was, maybe I shouldn't say too much, but this sheikh that I asked, he's not anywho. He's he had also a degree in one of the sciences, so it's extra. Anyway, but just for Jesus, how do you pronounce that? Denisovan in Russia. I always forget that.
From what I read, it's just Denisovan.
Denisovan.
In Russian, he's called Denisovets.
Denisovich.
Denisovets. It's named after a cave. I just got it on Wikipedia. It's named after a cave that is named Denisova. So it's and then Denisovan.
Okay, Denisov. Okay, no.
It's not that bad already. So
I tried to remember that. I don't know how many times, but some words.
I didn't even hear about it, so I couldn't. I didn't hear it prior to the show.
One other thing that I wanted to correct, that you presume that I am more Neanderthal than you are, because but actually the highest percent, the area in where you have the highest percentage of Neanderthal, or like the highest density of Neanderthal DNA, is actually in Tuscany in Italy for some reason. So
where's the lowest?
In sub-Saharan Africa. In sub-Saharan Africa is the lowest. They
probably in the Congo.
The San people have no Neanderthal DNA.
Do you think there's any? What do the Chinese have?
They have slightly lower than
because the Neanderthals didn't get as far as China. It was the
but the reason why they still have it is because Neanderthals lived in what's today the Middle East. So immediately when Homo sapiens escaped from Africa, so to speak, they excuse my French, they had sex with Neanderthals. And
bonobos. I told you it reminded me of Anna Kasparian and the. She's from that area.
Are you obsessed with bonobos and Anita, or what is your problem?
She's been on YouTube quite a lot recently because of her outburst about being better than the rest of us.
Oh well, she actually has. Are you talking about this lady on the TY?
TYT, yeah. The Armenian.
Actually, she has some Neanderthal features. Her face. So
now we are getting really racist.
No,
but it's true.
I've seen that in some men when I was. You do get some men who look so much like Piltdown Man. It's unreal. They got the forehead and the sloping brow.
Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have. That only mean that you have your features. But I think some things they have looked like. I mean, there are some parts of the Neanderthal genome that we can be quite sure, like not like physical features in that way. Well, actually, one thing is straight hair. This straight hair, I don't know.
Are you saying all heavy metal guitarists are Neanderthals?
No, but look, if you think
Well,
about
they
it.
are loud like them, probably.
Sorry, you have to excuse my. I'm not a native Englishman. Okay. Like immediately when Homo sapien went out of Africa, they had sex with Neanderthals, and the guys that went to Europe had more sex with Neanderthals. So that's why you have a difference in like the percentage of Neanderthal genomes, and that's why the people in Tuscany has higher. So, but what parts of the Neanderthal genome survive in us, and why? You have to understand that the Neanderthals have lived in this cold climate, in this environment for longer time, so their genome was adapted to that environment.
So you're saying they used the beds that they used to keep warm to lure humans into to have sex with?
No, it's actually one of the things that they can see is that the genome that has survived come from like the female hybrids rather than the male hybrids, because the male hybrids probably became infertile. You see what I'm saying? So the male hybrids
Allah was right.
couldn't reproduce.
Muhammad was right. All these women were a bunch of sluts. Sleeping
Well, sluts. The Homo sapiens probably raped them. You know. I don't know. I don't know. I can't go back in the time machine. But let me finish this. There are certain parts.
Maybe they paid them off with mammoth meat. I think that they didn't rape them, but they bite them.
But I can explain another thing. Anyway, but there are certain parts of the Neanderthal genome that probably survived, and one of these is straight hair and like this kind of thicker skin adapted to cold. Maybe also this lower melanin thing, and maybe also the color red in people that has like ginger hair. But there are more important things like the immune system was adapted to another climate, and also I think it's type 1 diabetes, or some of the diabetes. The kind of diabetes you get in old age, is that type 1?
It's type 2.
You sure?
Type 2 is the tablets. Type 1 is the injection. And type 2 is what they're all worried about.
Isn't type 2 the most common that anyone can get?
It's the most common. Type 1 you can usually get born with. Type 2 is the type that generally comes about in old age or with eating bad fatty foods and the like.
Okay, then it's type 2. So the genes for type 2 diabetes comes from the Neanderthals, and that's probably some kind of adaptation to the types of starvations you got in this colder climates. So that's another important one. Another one is actually they found both genes related to depression in the Neanderthal genome, but also genes that like against depression. It has something to do with like the uptake of serotonin or something. I don't remember exactly. So that's also from.
That makes sense. Sorry that I interrupt you, because probably I'm more a Neanderthal than I thought, because I have migraine, and migraine does mostly kick off by serotonin, and I'm depressed. So makes sense.
Do you like heavy metal?
One thing that I'm not sure about this, but it would be interesting if there's a link between introvert personality and Neanderthal genome. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this, but thing about depression is this we know.
How do you explain Donald Trump and Mitt Romney? They have orange skin. Have you not noticed them?
Yeah, they are probably higher. They are probably higher DNA. They have higher percentage of DNA of Neanderthal DNA than for example Barack Obama. But you know they also found
it is just makeup.
They also what?
Or it is just makeup.
I mean, it's quite incredible when you see it on TV. The orangeness is like tango.
Yeah, yeah. That
It's
now
because
you're talking about the fake tan powder, whatever they're using. I'm not talking about that. That's not genetical. That's I don't know how they do it. But if you, but this if the white skin come from the Neanderthals, yeah, that's. I want to see further proof of that, because there was actually they found a skeleton that was in what is today, I think, Spain. That was 9,000 years ago, and then they compared it to modern people, and it was most like today's Scandinavians actually. And this guy had blue eyes, but his skin was dark, not as dark as in Africa, but darker. So there, like, maybe the light skin hadn't like become predominant yet.
Actually, maybe you'd be able to answer this question that was sparked off by something that Devon Tracy said once. He claimed that black people didn't get into South Africa first. He said black people and white people both got into South Africa first.
Well, back to these San people, guys. I don't know if it's exactly the San people, but the same tribe.
Racist.
The same tribe as Nelson Mandela. They were there first. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And then you have these guys. I don't know where they come from. This like more common type. They came there later. So it's the Nelson Mandela guys that have the real birthright to South Africa.
I was understanding the Africans have a lot more genetic diversity. I mean, most left Africa has less diversity.
Yeah, exactly. Most diversity exists in sub-Saharan Africa, and therefore that's what why I'm talking about Neanderthals and the Denisovan guys, is that there probably existed more subspecies in sub-Saharan Africa than used outside Africa, but we haven't given them any names. But that is starting to show up in the genome, but that is like the latest research, so we will probably see more of that the nearest 10 years.
Yeah, it's only a newest sort of theory, isn't it? They've only had the technology.
It's not a theory. You can see it in the genome. That's the good thing about genetic science. The genes don't lie.
So in 10 years, Obama will look like that, or what?
The genes can lie. I mean, I remember when the research was published, there was a bit of controversy about it, and people were saying it was wrong. The results were wrong. They said
what do you mean they lie? What do you mean that?
They said it had been contaminated.
Yeah, but that's if it's contaminated.
Yeah, it took a long time.
But that is like saying, like,
before they actually
mix
definitely
if you mix water with wine, yeah, the water can be contaminated, but wine consists of water, so that's not a good example. But if you mix, therefore you have to be very careful that it's not contaminated. But even the contamination you can detect if you're.
Well, I remember they had to do the actual experiment again. They had to redo it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the same thing. Oh, this is a long story. If you want to know another Scandinavian researcher that has figured out an ingenious way of coming around this problem, because when they first sequenced the Neanderthal genome, I mean, it's amazing how it was completely scrambled up with other kinds of bacteria, genomes, and all kind of stuff. So it's I mean, I can't take the whole story here, but you can Google Svante Pääbo. You can or Svante Pääbo, and his team they're actually in Germany, in What's it called?
Leipzig.
Yeah, like what's the call this institute?
Max Planck Institute of
Max Planck Institute. Exactly.
Human Anthropology.
Exactly. You can.
Stacy Asadi made a little funny statement. What are we saying here, guys? Muslims are Neanderthals. Or what?
Well, I think we
Not
have
Muslims, because you have sub-Saharan Muslims.
It is
But,
wrong. That's a trap. Muslims aren't a race or an ethnic groups or something like that.
But maybe it is the Neanderthals who gave us the idea of having gods. Maybe it was in their genome that made us decide we had to have.
I mean,
deity.
that's another, like, we think of the Neanderthals as being kind of stupid and so on, but the Neanderthals actually had larger brains than we have. And normally in nature, having a large brain means that you're more intelligent. Not always, but most often. And they had as large prefrontal cortex as we have. So it may very well be the case that Neanderthals were more intelligent than we are. Just that we were more like the bad boys that came and fucked everything up. Except the French.
Is this your explanation why they are better at math or what?
Better at math? There are signs that they had some kind of math. Who is better at math?
The Asians.
But Asians, the guys that are best at math statistically is like Japanese and Korean guys. And there's another group.
The
Jews.
Are not Asians or what?
It's the Jews. The Ashkenazi Jews also. But yes, the Asians. But they have actually slightly lower percentage of Neanderthal DNA than Europeans. But you can say, is it a coincidence that the Renaissance happened in Tuscany? Is it a coincidence? Tuscany has the highest percentage of
World Jewish
DNA.
Conspiracy.
What?
It's a world Jewish conspiracy that started in Tuscany.
In Tuscany, or the Jews in Tuscany. I think there were Jews in Tuscany, actually. There were,
actually, yes.
During that time.
The Italian Jews are something in between the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim. But anyway.
Are you Ashkenazi?
Yes, I am.
Ah, you see. But you have infiltrated the Jinn and Tonic Show. You are controlling the world. I'm
getting paid for this.
It's a bit bad.
That's why I don't want the show to stop. Yeah, but I have to. I'm getting pretty tired now. I'm still.
Yeah. I think I have to wrap this up myself also. Yeah. We can continue this interesting discussion another time.
Just what I noticed is that we are. It's not that we are lacking the fun of doing the show, or because when we have enough people to contribute, it's getting interesting. I enjoyed myself very much. I tried not to say much when I don't know much about it, because when I listen to the show retrospectively, where I try to just keep the discussion going, it sounded horrible. So I was reluctant to say something, and I'd rather just keep listening and commenting. But I had a lot of fun just by listening to you guys. And yeah, sometimes I can even participate. It makes a lot of fun. I don't want the show to stop, but what I see is that we need topics, and I suggest that we post topics on some place and maybe some material that to work with, such that we can have a show next time.
Yeah. I have no idea how to do that, because really I don't have time really for it to gather things, topics, etc. And I'm not really motivated after doing it 2 years myself, the German show. I've also how could I say? I mean, Muslims, I would prefer Muslims to be here, but just talking amongst the non-believer is somehow pretty lame in general. Today it was okay, but in general it's not really helpful, I think.
Yeah, I think that it could be fun if we would discuss stuff that happened on the apologetics scene. So if we discussed, I don't know, whatever Dawah man has posted or whatever. What do you think?
Yeah, whatever. Like if someone just come up with a topic or ask a question, then I can start. Then we can start research things. But the thing is, I don't know what the audience is interested in to hear.
Well, they somehow liked your racism, so it's everything for today. It was good with you up on it.
Well, there are some shows now that please the audiences by showing other people's clips. So you would show a Dawah man clip and then stop it every so often and make comments about what he's saying. Is that what you were sort of like referring to, Juice?
Well, I wouldn't do it that way because that gives Dawah man much more airtime than he deserves. But I would rather like to extract the key points that Dawah man is addressing, like, I don't know, or not just Dawah man, I'm just saying that as an example, and then we could discuss what it means. So there was, and we can, there was a topic, for example, that Dawah man said something, if you're an atheist, you can drink your father's semen or something.
Yeah, but that's actually kind of good idea, that you take a video or something that some Dawah person has made, any Dawah person, it can be Jinn&Tonic, and then the whole gang in the Jinn&Tonic Show.
I would not like to play it in the show. I would just like to have a look at it before the show and talk about just what he did, and then analyze it, showing.
Yeah, but, or maybe we can just play it, and then we can stop, and then we can talk about what he just said, and then we can play it, and you know.
Yeah, but the thing is, who will do this research and this gathering? Because, like I said, I can host, I can start the show, and I can be the moderator here. But who will do this gathering?
But there are hundreds of stupid videos by.
Yeah, of course they are.
You can just pick anyone, and then we can like dissect it and have fun.
You mean we should start like a new generation of Jinn and Tonic Show and just talking about stupid Muslim videos or what?
No, but in one way, I mean, one of the most important things about the Jinn and Tonic Show is that we are like the skeptical voice against the Dawah people. So one of the most
skeptical. I'm sure that they are talking bullshit.
Yeah, okay. But we are like, our job should be mainly to be to like dissect their claims and making so-called rudud on them.
Yeah, I mean, we could try this next time, but for that, you have to, at least one of you has to come very early on air or something like that.
I just read one of the comments. I mean, I don't know if he was actually saying this, but he said something like, "I came here as a Muslim and I walked out as a Neanderthal."
How was it? Yes, I look forward to every week. It helps me. Knocked my Neanderthal brains out. Okay. Yeah, I mean, which one of you will be in next week early here?
What's the next?
I'm traveling.
Okay, if I don't have, if nothing really weird happens, I can be here early. What's the time? Is it in Berlin time? Was it?
Normally it starts 1800 UTC, but we can, if it's needed, why not?
No, but
change the
that's okay. That's okay. 19. That's Berlin time. That's 19.
Yeah, Berlin
Okay,
time.
okay.
18 plus 1, yes.
Okay. Okay, but I can be there unless something really drastic happens.
Great.
Abu Molid, can you then, after I stop broadcasting, give me your Skype name probably, so that
Skype? Why?
to contact you and to give you the link prior to.
No. I don't do that kind of stuff.
Okay, you
No
are pussy.
drugs,
Okay.
no
It's fine,
Skype,
it's
no
fine, you're a
Facebook.
pussy.
But we
Okay.
can you can contact me on the mail. I know I don't answer all the time, but
Yeah,
you can just email me. Okay.
I give you the link via email. What? I mean.
Yeah. Email me. I try to remember.
Nah, I will forget that. No, Skype would have been good, but if you don't.
Okay, but
if you are such a Neanderthal and have no technology, it's
no,
okay.
I have technology, but I don't have any Skype account that I can. Okay, I can create a Skype account.
Yeah, why not make it a skeptical one?
I have to.
So, any last words, or are we finished, or will you continue? Or
Now
Choose
we
his
have
direct
the hadith for the day.
of the week.
Of the
It's not
week.
for the day. Well, which one should I take? Let's go to the 12, and let's take just this one. I have no clue what it's about. It's Abu Muslim, not Abu Sahih Muslim, 3723. Jabir B. Abdullah reported, we used to cultivate land on rent during the lifetime of Allah's apostle, and we got a share out of the grain left in the ears after threshing them and something unspecified. Allah's messenger said, he who has land should cultivate it or let his brother till it. Otherwise, he should leave it. Yeah, what a lesson. Either you do it or you don't do it. Cultivate the land or you don't. I mean, what other options you have? Either you do it or not. Is this a real lesson for us? I don't know. Any last words or something like that?
Peace be upon you.
Yeah, peace be upon you too. Many, many peace. And Jesus, GPZ, anything from you?
Just keep the world conspiracy going.
Yeah. Your checks have to float in, of course. GPZ, are you doing it something with the dogs, or why aren't you taking anything? I think he's going with the dogs. Good, then it was at the end at all very, very cool somehow. Pretty dark-skinned and white-skinned topic in general, mainly dominated by our round-faced Neanderthal from Scandinavia. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it at least, and I think the people who listen too. Thank you. Till next time.
Shalom.
Shalom.